Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com with the latest from President Joe Biden.
If we fail to act, there will be a wave of evictions and foreclosures in the coming months as this pandemic rages on, because there's nothing we can do to change the trajectory of the pandemic in the next several months.
President Biden said there's nothing we can do to change the trajectory of the pandemic over the next several months. But the latest graphs from Johns Hopkins University shows that in the majority of states, the number of cases has sharply declined over the past 10 weeks. A good example is South Dakota, where they had no lockdowns and no mask mandates. Cases peaked on November 11th and have been declining ever since. Now they're down about 80 to 90%. Because South Dakota took essentially no action, they've pretty much achieved herd immunity and they didn't hurt their economy. Unemployment in South Dakota is about the same now as it was a year ago, so they're not going to have a problem with foreclosures in South Dakota. The problem's going to be in large Democratic states like New York and California, where they shut down hard in order to damage the economy ahead of the election. Businesses, including Amazon, have fled New York and California and moved to states like Texas and Florida, where the governors had no motivation to destroy the economy. It isn't clear to me why Joe Biden would want to change the downwards trajectory of the virus, or perhaps he just isn't aware of what's actually going on. Now that they've got their Manchurian candidate installed, the press and Democrats no longer have any motivation to push for lockdowns. In fact, over the past week, they've completely changed their story. Now they say lockdowns are no good. These are the same people who a few weeks ago said that anyone who was against the lockdown was a mass murderer. YouTube banned me for a while because I posted a video of a German doctor protesting the lockdowns in London. But now apparently it's okay to be against lockdowns because they've got Joe Biden in office and now they want the economy to improve. Magically, 2 days after the inauguration, the DC mayor has suddenly decided that it's okay to open up the bars and restaurants again. The same story in Chicago and the same story in New York. All these Democrats who intentionally destroyed their state's economy in order to get rid of Donald Trump now have to face the consequences of their actions. The trajectory of the virus is already headed down around the country, but Democrats have a huge problem with the wave of foreclosures which is coming up and which they intentionally created. Joe Biden will no doubt do everything he can to blame the mess which Democrats created on Donald Trump, just like Obama and Biden did 12 years ago when they blamed all of their failures on George Bush Jr. But Biden has already shot himself in the foot by shutting down fracking and shutting down the Keystone Pipeline. Gas prices have shot up very quickly since the election. There's no tax which is more regressive against the middle class and the poor than high energy prices, and Democrats have intentionally created this. Biden is pandering to upper middle class white neurotic people like Bernie Sanders and in the process severely injuring poor and minority families. Latinos and Asians shifted sharply towards the Republicans in the last election. They understand that Joe Biden's base is neurotic white people who are terrified by things like climate change and viruses. Biden is about to give the vote to 10 million illegal immigrants who are very likely to vote against him in the next election. I spent a couple of years living in an apartment building in Columbia, Maryland, where I was the only white person. I never talked to a single person there who brought up the subject of global warming. They couldn't care less about that sort of nonsense. Global warming is the religion of neurotic left-wing white people. I'm going to enjoy watching the Democrats implode over the next 2 years. They took power by lying to themselves and lying to everybody else, and that's not going to work out well for them in the future. And no matter how hard Joe Biden tries to blame Donald Trump for the mess which is ahead in Democratic states, it's simply not going to work out. Meanwhile, here in Wyoming, I'm going to be working hard to get rid of our local traitor, Liz Cheney. My business is exposing left-wing insanity, and Joe Biden is making it awfully easy for me. Please remember to visit Toto and Kyrie on the web at realclimatescience.com.